Well, hello, I am Matt Williamson. After further review, even a better win. I mean, Steelers are in good shape, and this podcast is just going to be a hodgepodge of all different notes, more research. Again, the last time I talked to you, basically the final whistle had just ended, and this is their best win of the year. I think it's the best they've played all year. It's the most promising. Now, that doesn't mean that they're ready to win 4 out of 6 Super Bowls and have Hall of Famers left and right, but I am encouraged, at least. So, again, there's not a lot of rhyme and reason to the order of this. I just have notes after notes after notes. I don't think they'll be repetitive, but here we go. Early in this game, clearly, first off, we know nobody's worse in the league with their, quote, scripted plays, their first 15. It's not even close. I mean, they're by far the worst up until this game. And I'll look into it, where they're at after this game. But early on, very early on, clearly they wanted to get Najee the ball. Swing pass, a lot of runs to the left, behind Slomalu, who I think is really turning into a quality guard for the Steelers after a little bit of a rough start. Kind of reminds me of James Daniels a little last year in that regard. But he's picking up 4, 6, 5, 6, that type of thing. And then in the second quarter, he only got 1 touch. I understand that there's game script involved and things like that. But that was one criticism was it wasn't phenomenal. But he was running and getting chunks much like second half of last year. He wasn't getting stopped for no gains. He wasn't ripping off 20-yarders, but he was getting consistent yardage. And then just 1 touch in the second quarter. I just want to throw that out there. And these aren't all going to be negative, that's for sure. So along those lines, as we mentioned yesterday, they were 3 out of 3 in the red zone. Three rushing touchdowns. First rushing touchdowns of the year. But what I saw today after really watching, and then I went back and found the numbers on Pro Football Focus, in those situations in the red zone, they were successful on those rushing plays against very, very heavy box counts. So just wanted to throw that out there that, there was not a lot of room to run, and they still, against heavy box counts, did a very nice job. I also wanted to commend more, but not enough. Well, I need to watch y'all 22 on that. More in-breaking routes. There's no doubt after that. And yards after the catch is becoming what I think is a staple of this offense. Why I hesitated was I think there was more there and Kenny turned them down, to be honest with you. In breakers, middle of the field stuff, because his targets between the numbers were still very low. But I did see a lot more in-breaking route concepts and routes that led to yards after catch. So give Canada some credit on that. How about this? Kenny was 7 of 7 in the fourth quarter. Is this just who this dude is? Over the last 2 weeks, if you combine the Steelers' scoring over the last 2 weeks, they've scored 28 points in the fourth quarter of play. In the other 3 quarters combined, they've scored 13 points. Is this just who Pickett is? Is he going to be a roller coaster his whole career? Is this just Kenny, Kenny stuff or what? So 18 starts for Pickett. He has 7 game-winning drives and 5 fourth quarter comebacks. He's 11-7 as a starting quarterback. Is he perfect? Not even close. But some of these things aren't accidents and get to be pretty repetitive and pretty much, not fluky. And if you haven't realized, in the Steelers' last 15 games, Kenny aside, they're 11-4. We're all calling for, not we, a lot of people are calling for coaches' heads and all that. And hey, I understand where you're coming from, but they've won 11 out of their last 15 times they've walked on an NFL field. I'm not including the preseason here, of course. So we talked about the fourth quarter stuff. In the fourth quarter, the Rams ran 8 plays, 25 yards on those 8 plays in the fourth quarter. Steelers ran 25 plays in the fourth quarter for 182 yards. Now, there's definitely a mentality, a physicality, wearing a team down where this fourth quarter stuff derives itself. And give Tomlin credit for that. I mean, the tough-mindedness, the physicality, that kind of stuff is real. They had 5 drives in the second half, the Steelers. 3 of them were touchdowns. Pretty good. I thought too, I meant to talk about this more during the week. I talked about it here and there, but McVay and this Rams team was really known the opposite of the Steelers. Fast start Rams offense. And they were the better team early on, and they moved the football and they did good things. But then they kind of wore out. Just total opposite. They're coming into this game, the Rams are fast start, scripted, kill you, boom, 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 get a lead. Steelers are the opposite. And then the game kind of played out that way. All right, I got a ton more here. Let's take a quick break. I need a little sip of water. I'll be back in a minute. Again, recording this, I have not yet watched the All-22. I will very soon. I thought the offensive line was quite strong overall. Dan Moore was easy to rip at, and I would have started Jones. I'm on record. I'm not going to change that. Played well. I mentioned Siamalu. The left side of the line seems like where they prefer to run when they need it. These Kenny sneaks are to that side. So I thought the O-line played very strong. And it's extremely noteworthy that Aaron Donald didn't wreck this game. I mean, they had 2 big people on him all the time, and they stuck with it well. So commendable on that. This is a little snippet I got out of Dale's article. Though the final stats show they had just 86 yards on 29 carries for an average of 3 yards per attempt, realize that Pickett had 8 carries for 0 yards. He had 4 kneel downs, which count in the stats. So you obviously had none of those. And he had 3 quarterback sneaks that don't, in one of which he scored a touchdown. So Kenny had 8 carries for no yards, 7 of which I guess did their job. So that's going to kill your yards per attempt. You know what I mean? So Harris had 14 for 53. Warren had 6 for 32. So those 2 had 20 for 85. I think you take that. I mean, that's more than 4 a clip. And, I thought it was reasonably successful overall. 20 for 85, I think you'll take that ratio. Stafford, while I've been critical of the secondary and won't take that back, and they had some down moments as well, still only completed 48% of his passes. I think you'll take that. Another thing Dale mentioned, and I have some things to back it up, is I mentioned before, neutralize is a big word, but they limited Donald. It's very clear to me that the game plan must have been drilled in from the second they started practicing. Don't let Donald and Kupp beat you. Don't let Donald and Kupp beat you. Don't let Donald and Kupp beat you. So the way Dale phrased something here was every time the Rams ran the ball, even when they were getting positive yards, it was like a win for the Steelers. It was one fewer time they would test the Steelers with Kupp. And I tend to agree with that. And I'll find it, I'm going to scroll down and remember that. I'll get back to it because I should have laid this out a little better in terms of the outline that I was going to chat with you guys. But anyways, so we know, here we go. I found it. So told you guys coming into this game, the Rams have a very, very high number of rushing attempts in their wins, very low number of rushing attempts in their losses. But they end up throwing the ball 29, running at 31 in a game they lost. So they made them kind of play left-handed. And this is what I was looking for. The Steelers played very light boxes on early downs. They wanted them to run. There's no question. I mean, if you rewatch the game with that in mind, that's 100% the game plan. That's coaching. That's preparation. and it worked. This was the next-gen stat of the game. Deontay Johnson caught 5 passes for 79 yards on 6 targets, posting his highest receiving yards over expected total of the time he spent with Kenny Pickett, the second highest mark of his career. What that means is if you run the exact same routes he did and on the same down distances, he should have ended up with 23 fewer yards than he did. So he was plus 23. Take that what you want, but whatever. NFL research from NFL.com. This is pretty crazy. TJ Watt joined Lawrence Taylor as the only player since 1982 when sacks were first tracked with 70 plus sacks and 7 plus interceptions over their first 7 seasons. How about that? I mean, I think that's an astronomical number. Steelers offense was much better moving the sticks on first and second downs with a much better early down success rate. Something we've talked about leading up to games. I've been very critical of they don't get first downs on first and second down. Much better about that too. And the Rams' early down success rate, well below average. Here's some snap count stuff from the offensive skill position players. Cooper Kupp played 68 of 68. Nakua played 63 of 68. Atwell played 50 of 68. So they did play more 12 than originally guessed. Than they usually do, at least. Higbee played 61 of 68, and their backup tight end, Davis Allen, played 13. Their running backs split carries 39 to 29 in Henderson's favor over Freeman. The Steelers running backs split carries split snap counts 33 to 28 in Najee's favor out of a possible 58 snaps. Connor Hayward played 50 out of 58 snaps. Major role in this game. Washington played 31 of 58, and Rodney Williams was out there for 11. More on these guys in a minute. Pickens was out there for 52, Johnson for 39, Robinson for 37, which Austin for 7. But you guys know I want Austin, more Austin, less Robinson. But I think to some slight degree, Johnson was on a bit of a pitch count. He only played 39 out of 58 snaps. So I'm sure he was pulling himself out of games. And Robinson would have been his direct replacement. So I kind of get it for this one. But Austin got 1 carry, 0 targets. He's only out there 7 snaps, but you get my picture. Washington was out there 31 snaps, 0 targets yet again. How about this? Pickens averaged 3.8 yards per route run, and Johnson was at 3.2. If you're over 2 yards per route run, especially for the season, you're killing it. 3.8, 3.2. Robinson was at 0.47. I mean, that's just who he is. Nakua was at 5.1. But Kupp was under 1, 0.91. Which I'm sure if you told the Steelers statisticians or whatever, we'll keep Kupp to under a yard per route run. I like our chances of winning this thing. Here's a couple other nuggets, small little nuggets about the skill position dudes. Deontay played all 31 snaps in 11 personnel, but only 8 of the possible 21 when they were in 12 personnel. So I think that's how they just kind of limited his snaps a little bit, was just had him out there in 3 wide, not when they had 2 tight ends on the field. Allen Robinson took most of the other snaps in 12. The Steelers passed on 7 of 8 plays with Johnson on the field and 3 of 12 plays with Robinson on the field. So Hayward, he played 25 of a possible 31 when they were in 11. So they didn't have a big blocking tight end out there with 3 receivers on the field. They had Hayward. Washington only took 6 snaps out of 11, and they were all run plays. Warning sign, warning sign. Don't let the upcoming opponent know that Washington in 11 probably means run. Keep it quiet. Keep it under your hat. Anyway, Rodney Williams took some snaps from Hayward and Washington in 12. And he also was out there to let the Steelers run 6 plays of 13 personnel, 3 tight ends on the field, something they've been very reluctant to do this year. So I think their tight end usage tells you a lot about, what they think of these guys and making a couple changes out of the bye. That's a wrap for today. A lot of good information there. Over and out.